My president is accomplishing so many things. Shout out to Jeff Childers, Coffee and COVID News. He replied to Matt Van Swole's message, and he said, fine, I made the list. It's still growing. Trump 2.0 accomplishments as of mid-July 2026. Buckle up, folks, because here we go. Negative net migration for the first time in 50 years. 2.6 million plus illegal aliens removed, including 650,000 arrests and 400,000 convicted criminals, plus 2 million self-deportations induced by ending incentives. These are conservative numbers. Fentanyl trafficking crushed 56% plus, overdose deaths down 21% monthly since inauguration. Laken Riley Act signed and aggressively enforced. Catch and release ended, a 99.9% drop. 0 releases into the U.S. for 8 straight months. Record low border encounters. Darien Gap migration cut 99%. Largest one-year homicide drop in U.S. history. Violent crime, including rapes, robberies, and assaults down significantly. Targeted crime operations in major blue cities delivering record low murders in several metros. Law enforcement officer deaths down 25%. Tren de Aragua, MS-13, and other cartels dismantled. International drug cartels designated as foreign terrorist organizations. Antifa designated a domestic terrorist organization. One thing I need to note here, I was thinking about this weekend. All the people who are like, we have all these domestic problems, and they're just focused on foreign stuff. Where do you think those domestic problems are coming from? And furthermore, the United States Constitution is notoriously constructed to make it difficult to prosecute American citizens for things, particularly related to terrorism and treason and these sorts of things. Americans naturally have an extremely robust set of rights guaranteed to them by the federal government. You can scoff about it all you want. It's objectively true and unique in world history. So if you want to go after the domestic terror operations, while navigating the fact that many of these people are going to be really difficult to prosecute precisely because of how they've conducted themselves, the best way to do it is to affiliate them with something foreign. Again, if you have like a remedial understanding of American politics, you would know this intuitively. Gas under $3 a gallon in 43 states. Record U.S. energy production and exports at all-time highs. I don't know if this is exactly true at the moment, but it has been true for long stretches of the second term. And if you look at the gasoline futures, this is where we're headed by the fall. 654,000 plus new private sector jobs. All net gains to native-born Americans. Politically Catholic.
New Labian alert. My son Nicodemus, Nico, was born yesterday afternoon. Never doom. Making cute babies with our wives is how we crush the libs.
Teal Bucks alert. $200. Announcing a new Labian. Taking us over the goal. Someone's making money tonight. Or this afternoon. Or this morning. Whatever time it is. Forum.kingpilled.com. Make sure you sign up there. We're giving away at least $50 today. Shout out to Politically Catholic and his wife for Nicodemus, Nico and Augie. 2 powerful Christian patriot names. Congratulations, man. That's really good to hear. I was wondering, I saw you posted in the Discord yesterday. I was wondering, I don't remember, do you pronounce it Augustine or Augustine for his name? I couldn't remember. I think you do. You say Augustine, but I couldn't remember. But Augie and Nico, that's so good. Baby Bucks, yes. Shout out to a new Labian. So good. Go make a baby tonight, boys. In honor of Andrew and Tina and Nicodemus. So 654,000 plus new private sector jobs, all net gains to native-born Americans. 671,000 plus jobs added since January of 2025. 4.3% GDP growth in the third quarter of 2025. Largest blue-collar wage growth in 60 years. Already the largest blue-collar wage growth in 60 years. Could it be more? Yes. Will it be more? Yes. Can you benefit from that? Only if you quit doom posting and get to work. Real earnings up $1,100 annually. Inflation tamed to 2.4% core CPI, down about 70% from Biden's peak. One big beautiful bill passed July of 2025, making 2017 tax cuts permanent, no tax on tips, Trump accounts for newborns, and senior deductions. I've seen people shitting on the Trump accounts things, and I swear to God, you guys are going to get thrown out of a helicopter. You don't deserve the things my president is providing you. $5 trillion in deregulation savings plus, or $5 trillion plus in deregulation savings, plus $215 billion in government efficiency cuts, which nets out to $1,300 per taxpayer. So, real earnings up $1,100, and just in government efficiency cuts, down $1,335 per taxpayer. $10 trillion plus in reshored or domestic investments secured. Trade deficit at the lowest level since 2009. $300 billion plus in tariff revenues collected. Predatory global tariffs shifted in the U.S.'s favor for the first time in modern history. I'll have more on the tariffs thing tomorrow. I've got a good tariffs thread and some new tariffs news, but I'll have to get into that tomorrow. He says, no, it's the former pronunciation. Augustine, not Augustine. Okay, so it's Augustine. Augustine and Nicodemus. Oh, it's so good. Stock market, record highs. Gaza ceasefire plus hostage release secured. 12-day war, Israel-Iran, ended. Multiple additional peace deals and accords. Armenia and Azerbaijan, India, Pakistan, DRC and Rwanda, Cambodia and Thailand, Kosovo and Serbia, Egypt and Ethiopia. Iran's nuclear capability destroyed, plus maximum pressure campaign, 450 plus sanctions designations. We'll have more on Iran in the next few days as well. NATO allies leaping toward 5% GDP defense spending. 85 plus detained Americans released. Abraham Accords expanded. Strikes on Houthis and Iranian assets and narco-terrorist vessels. Nicolas Maduro captured. I think the technical term is yoinked. Record military recruitment goals met. Largest military investment in decades with AI integration. F-47 sixth generation fighter unveiled. VA backlog reduced 60%. 3 million disability claims processed. 51,936 homeless veterans housed. Benefits restored for vaccine mandate discharges. Transgender enlistment barred. DEI eliminated across military and federal agencies. Over 269 executive orders signed in the term. 230 in the first year alone, highest first year total since FDR. 81 memoranda plus 158 proclamations. DOGE-driven bureaucracy cuts, IRS IT budget savings of $2 billion, wasteful contracts eliminated. DEI discrimination banned in federal contracting and agencies, race-based hiring ended. Gender ideology extremism curbed in schools, medicine, and government. Minors protected from chemical and surgical procedures. See, like, you might be able to kind of be like, at one of these things, but look at the wall of text here. This is 18 months we're talking about. Against tremendous opposition. Particularly from faggots posting on the internet. Maha reforms launched. Presidential commission established. Most favored nation drug pricing with 16 plus major pharma companies. 8 artificial food dyes phased out. 40% plus industry compliance. Whole Milk for Healthy Kids Act. Marijuana reclassified to Schedule 3. Childhood vaccine schedule revised from 72 to 11 consensus shots. Expanded IVF access. $50 million autism initiative. New Whole Foods dietary guidelines. Withdrew from the WHO. Crypto regulatory framework via Genius Act. Strategic Bitcoin reserve created. Operation Choke Point 2.0 ended. Sanctuary city funding cuts implemented. Election integrity and citizenship verification measures expanded nationwide. USPS program pending. This is the one for the compliance for delivering ballots. And they're making federal dollars contingent on and USPS delivery of ballots contingent upon states complying with them. SAVE Act drafted and run at Congress several times now. Energy dominance unleashed. National energy emergency declared. 6,000 plus drilling permits approved. 55% increase. 13.1 million acres open for coal leasing. Record LNG exports greater than 100 million tons. Nuclear projects advancing toward online status. Major energy export deals. $100 billion for South Korea. $200 billion for Japan. Paris Agreement withdrawal. U.S. becomes net oil exporter for the first time in history. Trump accounts launched for newborns with federal seed funding plus corporate matching. Farmer aid secured. Skilled trades and domestic manufacturing. Semiconductors, autos, and heavy equipment expanded. Over 100,000 fraudulent visas revoked. 275,000 illegal aliens removed from Social Security rolls. Benefits terminated for 1.4 million illegal aliens. H-1B crackdowns and $100,000 application fees. 62,000 plus missing migrant children rescued. Alien Enemies Act invoked against gangs. $2 billion sent to rebuild Western North Carolina. John Bolton arrested and pleaded. James Comey arrested. John Brennan under investigation, probably facing a grand jury. Russiagate grand jury set up and running in Florida. DOJ and ODNI seized Fulton County 2020 ballots. Trump is still working on plans B, C, D, etc., with a new integrity announcement scheduled as soon as tomorrow night. Now, we obviously saw that already, and hopefully I will have more on that soon. Then, so this is all the things he included. One other thing that he didn't mention, that I would mention, is the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission proactively soliciting reports of people discriminating against white people in the workplace. And then I took this list, I threw it into Grok, and I said, list everything else that Trump 2.0 has accomplished that would be perceived as a win by someone who loves the list in this tweet and sees the things listed as important wins. Don't include anything that's already on the list. Immigration and sovereignty wins. Further interior enforcement surges. ICE street arrests, not just from jails, increased dramatically, over 10x in early periods, with policies reclassifying many as applicants for admission, leading to higher detention rates and reduced releases. De minimis exemption crackdowns and customs overhauls. Executive actions and related laws tightened low-value import rules, targeting China, Shane, Temu flows for drugs and tariffs evasion. Is that Shane, Shine, Sheen? Whatever. With enhanced importer vetting, penalties, audits, and bond requirements, public charge rule revival and benefit restrictions, expanded measures to penalize legal immigrants' use of safety net programs, and stripped certain Obamacare subsidies from low-income lawfully present immigrants. H-1B and visa, so even these ones for now are lawfully present, but they're losing Obamacare subsidies. H-1B and visa reforms, additional crackdowns beyond initial mentions, including higher fees and scrutiny, then law and order and accountability, high-profile arrests and investigations, expansions on figures like John Bolton, who was arrested and pleaded. James Comey is facing multiple indictments. John Brennan is under investigation in grand jury, plus broader Russiagate grand jury activity and seizures like Fulton County 2020 ballots. Gang and pedophile operations, additional major pedo stings, at least 6 reported in some periods, and thousands more gang member arrests. Says e.g. 7,000 plus in the first year per DHS. Broader cartel gang designations and Alien Enemies Act use, extended applications against specific threats. Economy deregulation and efficiency, sector-specific deregulatory EOs, actions advancing regenerative agriculture and farm resilience. Regenerative agriculture. Quantum innovation leadership, post-quantum cryptography security for infrastructure, and customs enforcement modernization. And like, these things are easy to just kind of gloss over, but this is really important infrastructure work from the administration. It's thankless, but it's important. Student loan and education reforms, implementation of changes for the One Big Beautiful Bill framework, including borrowing caps, repayment plan overhauls, and limits on certain plus loans. Rare earths and critical minerals deals, agreements, for example with Australia, to secure domestic supply chains and reduce China dependence for tech and military applications. And then housing and finance moves, efforts toward relisting Fannie and Freddie to improve affordability. This is a big one. If you don't understand why, just go binge some Tom Luongo for a little bit. Yeah, they flipped the food pyramid. That's right. That's right, T-Con. Energy and manufacturing. Western Hemisphere energy realignment. Moves to develop dominance in oil and related sectors, plus specific export and investment deals. And then additional drilling, nuclear, and coal advancements. Permits, leasing, and projects building on record production. For example, more acres opened, LNG and nuclear progress. One other thing to include here is Luongo and Dexter White were on Ben Kelleran's podcast earlier or end of last week. Very, very good show. And one thing that that Tom was outlining was you may have heard them talk about the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, and Trump is actually not depleting the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. What he's doing is he's essentially selling repo contracts on the oil. So they bought oil when it was cheap. They're essentially lending it to major oil companies with the agreement that they're going to be returning it back to them later, and the government keeps the difference between what they bought it for and what they're effectively lending it out for. So they're not just, it's not like there's this big supply of oil and they're just spending it down. They're ensuring that those companies are able to ride through this period of turmoil while they resolve the Iran thing, with the agreement that those companies are going to be returning that oil down the line. Foreign policy and national security, additional peace and ceasefire efforts. He mentioned that. The Board of Peace Charter ratification for Gaza and reconstruction oversight with international commitments, which, by the way, all the people who love talking about Israel have completely ignored the fact that Israel is fucking pissed about all the Board of Peace stuff and the Gaza reconstruction plan that's being forced on them. Iran and adversary pressure, maximum pressure continuation, nuclear capability action, sanctions, and later framework agreements and peace treaty elements. NATO and allied spending in military tech, further pushes toward higher GDP defense commitments and F-47 and AI integration. So Living Dead got AI modded here, but let me see if I can read this. ICE funded, oil exported, Iran pressed, Maduro yoinked, Nons discombobulated, Pyramid flipped, dies ejected, Israel frustrated, Pajits yeeted, that's what got it taken out. Drug boats scattered, Obama gayed, Dems BTFO'd, Libs cringe, Panicins transed, morale elevated, Kino pristine, Trump trusted. A banger! So good, man. So good. Cuban Venezuela actions, indictments, e.g. Raul Castro, and influence-crushing efforts. Marco Rubio has been absolutely gemming out on the timeline about communism and Cuba. And the communist hold on our neighbors to the south is not long for this earth. Military culture and other, VA and veteran expansions, beyond backlog reductions, additional housing and benefits restorations. DEI and woke rollbacks, further eliminations in contracting, agencies, education, and military. For example, transgender policies solidified. A lot of the corporate stuff here was downstream from the federal standards for contracting and agencies. Like, it just becomes easier to just kind of embrace it because the federal government is going to be breathing down your neck if you don't comply. So the majority of people were just acquiescing. Rich and powerful people just acquiesce all the time. They're not impressive, they're just rich and powerful. So removing it from federal standards has a downstream effect elsewhere. But that's not going to happen with the snap of a finger. It's going to take time and sustained pressure. Maha and health extensions, regenerative ag support, food dye and vaccine schedule and pharma pricing continuations and autism IVF initiatives, and then crypto and tech frameworks, Genius Act implementation, and strategic Bitcoin reserve operationalization. These build on the tweets of momentum and a promises kept America first direction, prioritizing citizens, reducing bureaucracy and influence of adversaries, and delivering tangible security and economic results. This isn't even everything. You could just do a 24-hour ASMR reading of all of the wins that the Trump administration has provided in just 18 months. all of those are real. They all matter. They all go together to form the full picture of what's happening. And you can choose to live in that world. You can also choose not to. I'm just going to tell you, living in that world is so much better than the alternative. You know how I can tell? Because all the people I know who are living in that world are having a grand old time. There's a whole group of us over in the Kingpilled Discord. We are having the time of our lives. And all the people who are not living in that world are a bunch of insufferable, whiny, depressing goobers. They're unhappy because they choose to be. They're not unhappy because of anything that is or isn't happening external to them. Because every time a good thing happens, they look for the bad thing in it. I'm not reading this list. I'm not going through all of this because I think someone who is demoralized is going to see all of this and go, oh, now I feel better. No, they're not capable of it. They're just sitting here trying to fact check everything. And they're choosing to be that way. They want to have low morale. They want to be sad. They want to be discouraged. They want to lose. It's baked into their temperament. Yeah, Living Dead. You could just have high morale. You could just choose it. It's that simple. You're not going to get argued into high morale. So if you're trying to argue, you're just saying, no, I don't want to have high morale. No, I want to be sad. No, I want to be fearful. I want to have something to be resentful about. Because that accomplishes my goal of offloading all responsibility for my own life. It's gratifying for a while.